Hi, Dr. Paul here again. Have you been wondering how to stay disciplined when working from home? It's a little challenging, but there's some ways to do that. Working from home brings a lot of advantages. It's also kind of tough. And to understand why that is the case, I'd love to share with you a model that I usually use in my parenting programs, but it has total relevance to what we're talking about here. And on this graph, we will plot control over here and maturity down here. Control means control over your own life. See how this is going to tie into working from home? It goes from 0 control to 100% control. You can have all of it or none of it or somewhere in between. And most of us are somewhere in between, right? Now, maturity has to do with how grown up you are. Now, I know you're a grown up, but how grown up are you? And to understand this, let's start with age, because age is probably the quickest way to define maturity. At birth, over here on this end, how much control do you have over your own life? Hardly any. Clear down here. You can make a big noise and a big stink, and that's about it. How about as an adult? At this other end of the spectrum, how much control do you have as an adult? Now, I know that there is some small print. I get that. But what I'm talking about is, generally speaking, how much do you get to have the say over what's going on in your life as an adult? Let's just put it at or near 100%, okay? Now, between birth and adulthood is this line that divides the control between self-control and others' control. This is really obvious when we're talking about parenting, because your kids, when they're really little, don't have much self-control. Somebody else has to kick in and take most of the control over their life, their parents, right? As we become adults, our parents no longer control our life. I know some of them are still trying to. That's another video. But here's the thing. You have to share the control one way or another. The more mature you are, the more control you get to have over your own life. Who are the other people who take control over your life? Okay, your employer is one of those, right? How much control they get to have depends on how mature you're going to be. So let's break this down next. We're going to take age out of the equation and talk stage. Stage, not age. Stage, not age. As we divide this chart into 3 stages, Stage 1, Stage 2, and Stage 3. Different levels of maturity. In Stage 1 over here, we tend to be selfish and self-centered, and we require a lot of external control to monitor our behavior. Stage 1, people are fighting and manipulating and demanding. There's a sense of entitlement that happens at stage 1. So you get the picture, right? And this is really clear to see in toddlers or in 2-year-olds, but adults are capable of this stuff too. Pay attention, you're going to see it all over the place. Stage 2 is where we move from fighting into cooperating. You're willing to cooperate with people. You'll negotiate and try to come up with a win-win solution. This is all about stage 2. You don't want any trouble. You want to keep the peace. And so you're going to work with other people. Well, you get a little more control when you move to stage 2. And usually this is where you hang out if you are in someone else's employ. Okay? Stage 1, you're probably not employed. You may well be incarcerated, where somebody else is taking all of the control in your life. Stage 2 is what's required for us to get along with other people and actually interact and be an employee. Stage 3 is the highest level of maturity. Stage 3 is where not only are we cooperating and negotiating, we take initiative, where we see what needs to be done and we do it. Nobody else has to tell us to do it. This is where we are truly responsible. Now, you can see why I brought a parenting topic into working from home, or working for yourself, or being an entrepreneur, setting your own schedule. That's going to require a higher level of maturity. There's a really cool payoff because you get to have more control, which is synonymous with freedom, but freedom is not free. And I see people make this mistake all the time when they get into self-employment or they want to work from home. They see the allure of all that freedom, and they don't step up with the maturity and responsibility that is required to structure your own behavior in a productive way. Now, do you need someone else to structure that for you? If so, you don't have any business working from home. If you can have that level of maturity, there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of payoff that can come from that. So quick wrap up of this part. There has to be 100% control. The question is, who's going to take it? And if you're not ready to take it on yourself, then probably you're not ready to work from home. I know that's a little harsh, but you know what? It's not that hard. It just requires a level of maturity and responsibility that maybe you weren't anticipating. Let's pay attention to that because that's going to power things up. Now, I promised you 3 tips. 3 things that you can do to power this up. Number 1, get an accountability partner or system. You know what? As mature as you are, it's still hard to get yourself to do what needs to be done without some kind of system in place for accountability. This could be as simple as teaming up with your spouse or your partner to say, hey, at the end of every week, I'm going to give you an accounting of what I accomplished while working from home. Can you see how that might change something in your own mind? Now, you're still providing all of the control and the structure around this, but when you have to report it to another person, or when you know that someone else is expecting you to check in about this, it raises your level of performance. So number 1, get an accountability partner or system in place so that you can trust yourself more to do the work. Number 2, and folks, this is consistent with what I've shared with you about the control and maturity diagram. For people who are entrepreneurs or structuring their own time or working from home, we're in a little different economy than the typical employee. So I want to talk about these 2 economies and then I'll summarize number 2 for you. There's a time and effort economy, and this is where you give your time and your effort. You punch the time clock, you put in your time, you punch out, you go home. Then there's a results economy, and this is where the entrepreneurs of the world live, where you don't get paid for your time and effort. You get paid for your results. So number 2 is to focus on results, not time and effort. What I mean by that is if you're going to work from home and there are certain things you need to accomplish, set a goal to accomplish those certain things rather than to put in time and effort on those things. It's a mindset shift to bring yourself to focus on those results rather than the typical time and effort that an employee would be focusing on. I got to go do my 9 to 5 Monday through Friday this week, and you're not really focused on the results. Well, working from home or working for yourself, it's only the results that you get paid for. Does that make sense to you? So focus on results rather than time and effort. That's number 2. Moving on to number 3. Do your work now. Okay, let me define now for you, because philosophically, the only time you can do anything is now. Meaning, when you're doing it, what time is it? Oh, it's now. Yeah, we tell ourselves sometimes I'll do it later. How are you going to do that? Later never shows up. Check your calendar. It's always today, isn't it? Yeah, just like it's always now. The only time you're going to do anything is now. So quit telling yourself you'll do it later. Let's define now, because right now you and I are having a conversation and you're not doing all of the work that you have to do. That's fine. When are you going to do the work? You're going to do it now. How are we going to define now? Now has a start time and an end time and a very specific task in between those two endpoints. That's how we will define the now. When am I going to do it? I'm going to do it now. When does that now start? When does that now end? And what is the specific task that I will do in between? So this is a way to structure and organize your own mind around the work that you have to accomplish at home, rather than having it be just an amorphous blob of whatever your obligations are. Get clear about doing things now. So let's say, for example, that you've got a report that needs to be finished. Okay, how much time is that going to take you? Well, it might take me an hour, maybe an hour and a half to finish this report. Just using that as an example. When am I going to do that report? Now. Not right now, because I'm watching Live on Purpose TV. But when will my now be? It's going to be Tuesday morning from 10 o'clock to Tuesday morning at 11:30. That's the now. You put it into a system, an accountability system that you trust. That might be your calendar. Start time, end time, specific task in between. You don't do anything else during that time. This is a way to keep yourself accountable. Now, what if something else important comes up and you have to put that in Tuesday at 10 o'clock? Okay, fine. When are you going to do the report then? Pick a new now. It might be Tuesday morning, but I'm going to start at 11:15 and go to 12:45 or whatever it is, okay? So you decide when the now is, but it's got to have a start time and end time, very specific task in between. That's much more brain friendly, and you can actually get yourself to get this work done. Self-discipline, right? Sounds hard, but it really helps us to get more freedom. I'm glad you've got some of that. I'll see you tomorrow.